Hello, and thank you so much for joining me for some Saturday night crafting. Tonight's one is such a fun one. I know some of you don't really like interactive cards, but I saw these ones and I've seen them around for ages, and I've never wanted to make them because they look too complicated, and that really puts me off. I'm not a fan of cards that need specific dies to make a project. I'm not a fan of cards that involve complicated measurements and difficult instructions. So I've gone through a few different videos watching different people create these kind of cards, and then I sort of compiled my own little measurements, tips, tricks, quick fixes along the way so that we can make both these cards, a 6x6 card as well as a 12x9 centimeter card. So 6x6 inches, 12x9 centimeter card. And then that way you can create these as well, because I've really dumbed down the instructions. I've got them as simple as you can probably get them. And then that way you've got this wow factor fun card that you can give to someone. Obviously, think about the postage in your country and whether this is going to be too thick, too heavy, too big, or hand deliver these ones. But they are fun and they have a really nice wow factor. Now, all the measurements for both these cards will be in the description box, I hope, as well as in the video. So you can pause the video, you can slow the video down. On the bottom right-hand corner, there's like a little cog. And if you press that, you can either slow me down or you can speed me up. So if you want to also skip ahead to the 12x12 card and skip over this centimeter card, feel free to do that, whatever works best for you. They both are the same concept. I'm going to make them just very slightly differently, and then you can see which one you prefer. Have a go if you want. They really aren't complicated. So for the first card, I'm going to use this Holiday Fun paper pad from Paper Rose. I picked out some of the papers that I wanted to use, kind of what I had left over from making the first few cards. And in this paper pack, it's got these great little fun elements. A lot of paper pads will have things like this where you can cut apart something and use that. So if you got those elements, feel free to use those and put them on the front of your card. Now we're going to need 2 sheets of A4 cardstock, whatever color you like. In North America, I don't know if you call it A4 or not, but we're going to cut it down to 24 centimeters by 9 centimeters. And then we are going to fold this in half, or you can score it at 12 if you like, and then fold it in half. This is going to be our card base, nice and easy. Now I'm going to keep this video with slow parts. So again, speed me up if you don't like it, but I'm going to keep some parts slow for you so that you can follow along with what I'm doing. And hopefully you can pause and play the video if you need to. Your next bit of cardstock, you're going to cut to 20 centimeters by 7 centimeters. And this piece here is going to be what we use for our panels. So this is going to be the bit that pops out in the front that you are going to see when you open the card. So 20 by 7. And then for this piece, we are going to score it at 5 centimeters, 10 centimeters, and 15 centimeters. And that will give us 4 equal panels. For our next piece, we're going to need to cut into our next sheet of cardstock. So if you make 2 cards, then you need 3 pieces of cardstock in total. It's quite nice. You can use 1.5 essentially sheets of cardstock per card. For this one, we are going to cut it 7 by 17 centimeters, and then we are going to score along the long edge at 5 centimeters from each side. Just found that was easier. And then we're going to fold in half to get that middle score line, which you don't see me do here. Now, this is the key, most important tip. If you want to make these cards and you want to change up the sizes of your cards, the bit in the middle here on this mechanism part, or the twisty part, is the bit that matters the most. Your width here in the center bit has to be the same as the height. So the width and the height have to be the same. And if you do that, that will ensure that your card twists and pops exactly as it should. Now we're going to score down the middle of this one, which is at 3.5 centimeters. So we've got a middle score line there. And then I do score the very middle of this card going the height ways as well. Now for this part here, we need to score corner to corner. This works best if you've got a paper trimmer, but if you haven't got a paper trimmer that can score and you're using a scoreboard, you can always do it with a ruler and a slightly squishy surface, like on a piece of paper, or on a pad of paper, sorry. So we're going to score corner to corner so that we can flap it like that. And then we're going to go the other corner down to the bottom corner. And I hope this is making sense, but we want to get right just inside those score lines so that that folds over beautifully. That gives us the kind of twist and pop effect of this card. So it is very simple overall. And if you do not have a paper trimmer like I do, then grab yourself a ruler and a stylus, and you're just going to drag along from corner to corner as you see me here. And then that way it will indent into your cardstock as well. And then you can do that same kind of maneuver. Now, I promise you, this is the most complicated part of the entire card making process. So if you find this tricky, don't worry, it's all uphill from here. I mean, downhill. Easier. It's downhill, not uphill. All we're going to do now is we are going to form that triangle that you can see on the front. So you're going to squish the two sides together and they should slot in. Now your cardstock may overlap like this. It might not be even on the bottom, and I have not found that that affects the hinge at all. What you can do is squish those two sides so they're touching, and then take a bone folder and kind of work out the end of that area, and that kind of helps to flatten it as it should, just to get it to lie flatter if you want. But I did do a couple where they were overlapping, they weren't even at the bottom, and it worked out just fine. So that's the hinge right there. Again, we are going to keep that triangle flat on the front and triangle flat on the back, which means you pinch the sides together and have the inside fold inward. So now you have this little house looking like thing. Mine's uneven. It doesn't matter. It still seems to work. And we're just going to snip the very tip off the end. This helps us with lining up our piece onto our cardstock in two different ways. So the first way I'm going to kind of breeze through because I found a better way of doing it for my second card. So stick around for the second card if you want to see the slightly better way of doing it. Now for the front of the card, I decided I wanted to use one of these panels that came with my paper stack. So I'm not going to give you the measurements because all I did was measure the width and the height. And then I cut myself a nice red glitter cardstock for the background. And if you're in the UK, this company that I bought my glitter cardstock from does really awesome job lot sales of glitter card, and it's the really nice stuff that's not the non-shed, it's proper glitter card. And I really love it for backing pieces like this or for doing die cut elements, so it's great value for money. I'll link that down below if you want to check it out. We need two panels that are going to be 11.5 by 8.5 centimeters for the inside of your card for decoration. Then we're going to need to cut 4 layers for the backing of our photos, which is going to be 4.7 by 6.7 centimeters. Now I went onto Canva and I designed my photos to be the size of 4.3 by 6.3 centimeters. And I know they're really irritating measurements, but it means that I get a cute little border layer around my photos. And I thought this card would be really fun to do with photos as a more personalized Christmas card. There's so many different options that you can do with this style of card. You could do little panels, you could print your own little elements out, you could do photos like I've done here. It's not too difficult. I'm not very good with technology, but I managed to print these on my printer and have them ready and be the right size for the inside pop-out bit. Now, I didn't cut my cardstock right. I cut it 11 centimeters rather than 11.5 centimeters, which is why I've got a bigger border around, but never mind. Now, the next thing we need to do is find the center point. I have these centering rulers. I have one in centimeters and I have the Tim Holtz one, which does inches. And all I need to do is put the center roughly in the center and then just check the left and right sides to make sure that it's nice and centered. And then we are going to line up our triangle so that it is just below the fold line and in the center. Now I'm speeding this one through because when I do the next card, I'm going to show you how to do it way easier and it's a lot more effective. So this is the way that I had first learned in one of the videos I had watched, and I will do my best to remember to link the original videos that I had a look through to get my inspiration from, just to give them some credit and a shout out. But we're going to glue that little center triangle onto the middle of that card below the fold line first, and then glue and then close it and do the top one. Now for this, I didn't get it quite right and it pops up a little bit, and that's fine. You can still make do with that. All we need to do now is follow that center line. So you can see where I've got that score line down the middle. We're going to line that up with the score line on the panels. Those panels, that middle score line's got to line up with that one. And then that's all we got to focus on to get this nice and central. So we're going to fold back that first flap, and just where it folds, we're going to add some glue to that top right panel underneath the top right little edge. And then the same on the left hand side, but we are going for the bottom left on this side. So we're going to add glue just to that bottom left side and then squidge that panel down. Now, if I had done it the way I'm going to share with you in just a minute, it would be completely flat, and this bit's a lot easier to do, but I'm having to hold it and pinch it between my fingers because it's a bit popped up. Now to decorate this one, I finished it off with a Merry Christmas on the inside as well. I know I have it on the outside, but I really wanted to put something on the front of the inside. And just to bear in mind, if you are going to do some layers on the inside of your card, it makes it significantly fatter and bigger. So that first one I'm sharing with you on the top there has no layers. It's just got the designer papers on it. And this one, obviously, I did photos with the glitter card behind, and therefore it makes it a lot fatter and thicker. But how cute is it? It just pops open, you get those photos, And then it's got the little Merry Christmas at the bottom. And then I glued myself a panel on the back with some glitter cardstock so that you can then go ahead and write your message to your recipient on the back. So that is the first card done and out the way. It's nice, it's small, it's cute. Now we're going to do the 6x6 version. So I've got two different measurements for you, and I'll try and put them in the description box, but I've got one that involves using 2 pieces of cardstock if you want bigger panels that pop out, and using 1 piece of cardstock if you only have, let's say, 1 piece of colored cardstock and you want to use that. So on the left is where I used the 1 sheet, and that's why my little panels are a bit smaller, and on the right is where I used about 1.5 sheets so that I could get the slightly bigger panels that pop out. Now this one is inspired by Sam Collicott version, so I will link her video down below where I got these ideas from, but I have modified the measurements slightly and modified how I put it together ever so slightly as well. So for this version that I'm doing with you, we are going to use the 2 sheets of 12 by 12 inch cardstock. We are going to cut the first one down to 12 by 6, and then either you can score it at 6 or fold it in half to get your card base. Now this card is brilliant for using up those 6x6 paper packs, or you could even cut down a 12x12 paper pack, but it's fantastic for using up those sheets. Your next piece of cardstock you're going to cut down to 8 and 3 3/4 of an inch. Now I hope this looks okay on the screen. I wanted to try and make it as visible as possible for you to read, and doing quarters of inches or of like the fraction look is really difficult to do on my software. So I hope this is helpful and you can pause it here and understand what I've written. So we want to score at 4, 2 1/8, and 5 7/8 of an inch. And just to confuse you, we are working on the hinge first, or the kind of twisty bit. So not the panels. This is going to be the bit that we are going to use as the inside of the card that you're going to have hidden. So again, as a reminder, you need that width and the height in the middle there to be the exact same. We're going to turn it the other direction, score it at 1 7/8 of an inch, and then we'll crease all of our fold lines just to make it easier to then fold down that triangle when we get to that point. So once we've got those folded over, or you could fold it at the end, I guess, we need to go ahead and do those diagonal lines. So again, you could use a ruler and a stylus if that's easier. I'm going to use my paper trimmer because I find it nice and easy to line up that corner to corner on the inside. So we're going to score those diagonal lines. And then that way we've got our kind of tree looking like image in front of us. So we'll crease those lines, and then that makes it nice and easy for us to squish in the 2 sides. So squish in one and then squish in the other. And then if they don't line up perfectly or it's feeling a bit too tight, just put it down on your work surface, grab a bone folder or something flat, and just kind of give it a nice firm press forward, and that should help you get it nice and even. And I don't know how this worked, but for this one, I managed to get it absolutely perfect. We're going to again trim that center tip, and we're going to actually use that hole as our guidance. That's going to be the key point in how we're going to glue this one together for this card. We need another piece that's going to be 11 inches by 3 3/4 inches. We're going to score this one at 2 3/4 of an inch, 5 1/2 inches, and 8 1/4 inches. And then that will give us our little panels that pop out when we open the card. So you should have your panels ready, your hinge or mechanism ready, and then your card base as well. So now we can go ahead and cut our pieces that are going to go on top of our cards. So I'm going to trim my designer paper to 5 3/4 inches for both sides, so they're nice and square. And then I'm going to do a backing paper for all of these as well. And I'm going to use holographic cardstock. So I'm going to do 5 7/8 inches. If you're not going to do the backing, then you could just do 5 7/8 if you want a nice small border around the edge. Now I decided I wanted to make this one slightly different to the last ones that I'd done as well, to give you more ideas and inspiration on what you could do with these panels. So I'm going to go ahead and cut 4 pieces at 3 5/8 of an inch by 2 5/8 of an inch. And I'm not going to back these ones, but obviously you could do 1/8 of an inch if you want to have a nice little layer, but I didn't want it to be too thick. And I also wanted to put happy birthday on the inside using some letter dies. So I've got these alphabet dies I bought ages ago from scrapbookdotcom and not used them yet. And so I thought this would be perfect to do this with. These aren't going to be perfect and amazing on the card because obviously I can't evenly spread them out on the 4 panels, but I do my best and I'm really happy with the end result anyways. I'm going to go ahead and glue those panels down onto my card, and I've got the nice little border, and then I kind of played around with my letters until I got them in a position where I thought that looked good enough and would do. So here they are all glued on and ready to go. Make sure you're always gluing your layers before you add them all together on your card. So glue all your extra pieces onto those layers before they go in the card. It'll make it much easier. To save on cardstock, I did make sure to cut a couple extra sentiments out of my middle pieces, and then I cut my sentiment from this one here with the scrapbookdotcom that I'm going to put on the front of the card, because obviously I've already got happy birthday on the inside, so I wanted something that didn't say happy birthday on the outside, and let's celebrate seemed really perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those layers together and then glue them into my card, and no one will have any idea that the whole inside of that piece of cardstock is missing. And then I've got some sentiments for other cards, and I've got the one for the front of the card. So this is a great way to use up those pieces of paper where you have no idea what to do with them. They've got a nice big pattern on them. You can use them on the front of a card like this. So here's my Tim Holtz centering ruler that is in inches, and I'm going to go ahead and place that right smack in the middle, and then you'll see it'll hit the 3 on each side of that 0. It's a really nice cheater's way to get the center without actually having to do any math. Works really well. I'll link this down below if I can still find it for you. I'll link everything that I've used today in the video if it's still available in that description box. So if you want to find it yourself, you can there. Now this is where we're going to change it up. I'm going to use that little hole that we created for ourselves to line up my piece of cardstock. So I'm aiming for that center hole and lining up my line with the line down the middle. And then I'm going to add some glue onto those triangles and stick it right down over that measurement. That way it just takes all the thinking out of the process, and then it's nice and flat and beautifully central on that card, and we don't have to think about it. So now we can take this middle bit, we're going to line it up. If you fold it in half, you can line up with that center line on your mechanism underneath. And then that way you know that that's exactly lined up centered, and then you can work your way backwards and fold that other flap back over, and then you can put your glue down and glue it on. So again, we're going to do the top right little corner and the bottom left little corner. And that way it will give us that hinge movement. It'll give us that kind of twist and pop movement. This was so much easier gluing it on this way. I recommend this so much more than the other way, which is the way that I learned in the first video I watched. But I found this so much easier. And then all you have to do is just kind of give it a little gentle ease and then give a nice firm press, and then you'll find it just pops beautifully. Now I do go ahead and add a little panel to the bottom of the front of this card so that I can write my little message on the bottom of the inside of the card rather than the outside, because I've got plenty of space down there. However, once I put that panel on, you will see that I do then struggle a little bit to open and close the card. It kind of catches just a tiny bit because you literally don't have any wiggle room with that pop and twist element. So here you can see it gets a little bit stuck and you do kind of have to ease it down. So bear that in mind. It might be worth putting your panel on the back regardless, but I felt like it would be a great place for the little message. But you can see it's like, oops, I'm struggling a little just to turn. But there we go. How great is this card? And it's super easy to do. Honestly, I made so many of them, it can't be that complicated. I hope you actually just have a go, because once you get those measurements done and once you get everything cut, it just flows really smoothly, and then you can get into a nice rhythm, and you could just cut a whole bunch of hinges and a whole bunch of the little panels. Use up your designer series papers, like all your different 6x6 inch ones, your 12x12 inch ones. It works really well. Or you could do these little ones if you want smaller ones that fit into a normal size envelope, if you've got little panels that you want to use up from your paper pack as well. So I hope you enjoyed this one tonight with me, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. The kids are back in school in just about a week and a half's time, so I feel like I can't wait to get my normal life back together where I can do regular videos and not be late all the time.